everyone. Welcome back to My Unprofessional Opinion Podcast. I'm your host, Angela. So for today's episode, I just want this to be a little chit chat. I want this to be a conversation because I think this is something that I think is a pretty big issue right now, pretty big problem in our world and in our society. So let me just paint the picture for you. So we live in a world that's for equality, that's like everybody's the same, everybody's worth it, everyone's equal. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's a problem, but how it's been handled, that is a problem. People are going so extreme, people are getting really intense, and they're getting mad, they're getting angry at each other just because they disagree, just because they can't see eye to eye, just because they're different, they have different viewpoints, they have different thoughts for what the world should look like, what someone's life should do, what they should do with their life. So I know just personally for me, something that really bugs me is when people are like, oh, you do you, we're all equal, you're entitled to your opinion, think whatever you want, believe whatever you want. But then the second that you disagree with this person, the second that you try to have a conversation about a touchy subject, they just go like off the walls. And then you look like the bad guy because you had an opinion that you're entitled to, but it's different. It's not politically correct. It's not what society says is okay. It's not lining up with what the world says. So it's like, okay, you're allowed to have an opinion as long as it's politically correct. I agree with it. Nobody gets hurt. But if any one of those things is off, you're an awful person, you're a bad guy, you're in the wrong, and shame on you. And I've said this in a lot of previous episodes, but just as a society, as a world, a lot of us have lost how to have civil conversations when we're disagreeing, when we don't see eye to eye, when, you see something over here, I see something over here, and it's not the same, so it's hard for us to come to an agreement. And that's so sad because we're never going to think the same. We're never going to be the same people because we're always going to have our thoughts of what we believe is what we think is the good idea or whatever. It's like we're going to see eye to eye on some things, but not on everything. So there's always going to be that like butting heads. It's just like we're so defensive. We're so quick to start arguments. We're so quick to like just point fingers and be like, oh, it's their fault. I didn't do it. It's not on me. And I think a lot of us can agree. Like, I don't think this is how God intended for us to live. I don't think He wanted everyone to be angry or upset or frustrated with each other. We're called to love people, whether you disagree with them, whether you agree with them. It's obviously a lot easier if you see eye to eye on everything, but that's not going to be the case for everybody. There's going to be people that think differently than you, and you need to learn how to show them compassion, how to be loving towards them, show them kindness. And the times where you don't see eye to eye, it's okay to have disagreements, but just remember, you're a person, they're a person. Like, you both have thoughts, you both have an opinion, you both have in your head why you're right, why the other person is wrong, because what you say goes. Because so many of us are stubborn that once you have a thought in your mind, it's almost near to impossible to change it. And when you're in a discussion or a disagreement and then it starts getting a little bit heated and then it just gets really exaggerated and really intense and people start getting angry and start saying and doing things that they wouldn't normally do or that they shouldn't do, that's where the real problem is because, like I said, we're called to love people. We're called to show kindness to each other. But John 15:12 says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." And that's pretty black and white. That's pretty straightforward, Jesus and God, like, they love us so much. So they're telling you, love how I loved you. So can you say, honestly, that you disagreeing with this person, you yelling at this person, you putting them down, you mocking them, you insulting them because you don't see eye to eye, is that showing them love? No, it's not. And I think a lot of times people can think the church has a bad reputation because they think, oh, it's just a bunch of rules, like do this, don't do this, don't do this. If you do this, you're an awful person. And again, that's a problem because if you are going to church just to follow a bunch of rules, if there's nothing to do with a relationship, you're not living how God wanted you to live. He doesn't want us to just be robots and to follow a bunch of rules. He put them there to protect us, to protect our hearts, to protect our minds, to protect other people. But if you're just doing that just so you can be like, oh, I'm a good person, I did A, B, and C, then you need to figure that out. Because there's so many topics that people think, oh, if you're a Christian, you're going to hate me because I'm blank, They just have this bad reputation that if they're doing something that is not traditional or how they think that it should be based on their idea of church. That's just a problem, because if we're really living how God called us to live, if we're loving people, if we're showing kindness, we're showing compassion, we're doing all those things that He wanted for us, it's like, yes, we might not agree with somebody's choices, their decisions, their lifestyle, whatever you want to say, but you don't have to agree to be able to love them, because there's a whole lot that I've done, there's a whole lot that you've done that God does not agree with, because we're all sinful people. We all do things that we really shouldn't do. But at the end of the day, God loves us all so much. So I think that's just a good way to kind of think of it. Like, you might not agree with your neighbor's lifestyle or a decision that they made. You might be like, oh, that's stupid or that's dumb. Why would they do that? But just because you don't agree, that doesn't mean that you can't show them love. That doesn't mean you can't show them compassion. That doesn't mean you can't be kind to them and want what's best for them. And whatever your disagreement is about, if it's something small, if it's not something like a moral issue, if it's something kind of light, then, maybe just accept it that you guys don't see eye to eye, and that's okay. Just kind of push it off, because once you have your mind made up, once they have their mind made up, it's really hard for either one of you to change your mind, because you're set. You know what you think, you believe that. It's pretty hard for anybody to convince you otherwise. But then on the flip side, if it's something that is a real problem, it's a real issue that needs to be resolved, it needs to be fixed, pray about it, That's kind of a good idea. But then as we'll talk to them, and you're probably like, oh, I'd try that or whatever. But I'm not saying go in there and start yelling at them, telling them that they're an awful person, telling them that they're being stupid, telling them that they're making dumb decisions. It's like, no, go in, talk to them, but have a civil conversation. Listen to them, listen to their point of view, get them to really listen to your point of view. But the second that one of you starts getting really passionate about whatever you're talking about, really you need to listen to me, it's my way or the highway, I'm right, you're wrong, the other person's ears are just going to be closed. They're not going to want to listen to you, because no one likes to be yelled at, no one likes to feel belittled, no one likes to feel like their opinions don't matter. So if you go in there and you sit them down, you have an adult conversation, you're civil, you're listening to them, you're being compassionate, you're hearing them out, and then you say what you want to say, but you do it in love. You have grace in the conversation. They might not change, but there's probably going to be a better chance of them listening to you and hearing you out and thinking about whatever it is that you're talking about. And when you do that, maybe your eyes will be open. Maybe you'll see a new perspective, and then you can kind of hear them out a little bit more, and you guys can compromise. You can meet in the middle so that you're both happy. So, just try to stay calm, do it with compassion, being loving towards this person. And I think that you'll be a lot more successful that way than just going and yelling at them, telling them that they're awful or that their opinions don't matter or whatever. Anyways, that's it of this episode of My Unprofessional Opinion Podcast. I've been your host, Angela. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for new episodes every Wednesday. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, folks.